look at this shirt. All right. It is summer vacay for the New York Jets, but it is still Third Party Thursday, which means we have a special guest to talk about the things that just happened this week and a new signing today. Ooh-wee! We got a lot to discuss right here on Boy Green Meets Wudi.
It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever seen.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome to an episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. See, you guys are getting me hyped on YouTube already. Talking in caps, getting excited. I'm speaking in caps, so I definitely feel that excitement. You already know it's James freaking Wudi right here. You know that it's Boy Green right there. But you know what? Today, I think we missing something. I think we need a little X factor. I think we need an X factor. Throw up the X from the X Factor's own Brandyn. Come on down. How you doing? How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me on today.
Okay, I just have to say this off the top. Wudi, what a professional you just were. Now, a lot of people wouldn't realize what just happened right there, but I did as a professional. And when he was about to introduce Brandyn, he's like in his head, he said, how in the fuck do I pronounce that last name? So you decided not to say it at all. What an A-plus move. And you know what? That's okay. You shoot the shots. I'm Scottie Pippen down there. I'll get your rebound. That is Brandyn Pokrass joining us here on the program with a capital P here on the program. So there you go. I got that rebound for you, Wudi. See, that was smooth as hell, and no one else would have noticed that. But you know what? I'm right here for you, pal. Just want you to know that.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, you got the basketball jersey on. Might as well make the basketball play. I appreciate that with a capital P, even though it's at the second letter of the word. I still put that appreciation all over that.
So with that being said, Brandyn, welcome to the show, mate. You joined me on Boy Green Daily, but your first time on the afternoon program. We let you sleep in a little bit more for Boy Green Meets Wudi. So appreciate and shout out to your alarm clock for that.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's nice not having to be up at 7, but you know, got a little bit more rest and feeling ready to roll.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's get right into it. We'll react to the news. Again, that's why I kind of like waiting. So like a lot of people that tune into my YouTube channel, we're streaming live right now on youtube.com, Twitter, and Instagram, and they see like the headlines of the videos. And why I try to wait as late as possible is because, well, new information presents itself. And that was certainly the case here for the New York Jets. They added former first-round draft choice Takk McKinley, a pass-rushing specialist, formerly of UCLA. He was one of 6 tryout players the Jets were kicking the tires on minicamp. We're talking about who was there, who wasn't there. Well, someone who was there was that list of tryout players, and he was one of the more interesting ones on the list. What do you make of the Jets kicking the tires on a guy who obviously has a lot of talent? Obviously, but he hasn't been able to tap into it on a consistent basis during his NFL career, Brandyn.
I think you can't ever go wrong with adding depth at edge, at defensive line. It's one of those positions where, you know, Robert Saleh, the defensive staff, they've made it work. They've made it work with various different combinations of different players. And this is a guy that has some familiarity with the Jets coaching staff. This is a guy that played under Jeff Ulbrich while he was in Atlanta. So with him having that first round pedigree, with him having that talent that's there, maybe this is a depth guy that the Jets can finally unlock. And maybe he finds a home and latches on with this team. And if not, you know, it's a depth signing. You have Quinn Williams still. You still have Hassan Reddick. And you still have, you know, a pretty deep rotation of players. But you did lose Bryce Huff. you did lose John Franklin Myers. You did lose Quinton Jefferson. So honestly, any help that they can add at that spot, which could have been an underrated need if one or two guys goes down, I have no issues with it, and I think it's a pretty good move.
Yeah, two things here. First off, there's the scheme stuff you talked about. Most recently, Takk McKinley was with the Dallas Cowboys, and then Dan Quinn was the DC at that time. Dan Quinn came from Seattle. Robert Saleh was in Seattle. So you have a lot of those base principles. Plus, Dan Quinn was in Atlanta with Jeff Ulbrich, who was also in Atlanta, to what you said. So there's a lot of connective tissue here. And you mentioned a lot of the guys the Jets do have, and some they lost, like John Franklin Myers. Smallest violin in the world. Upright stuff. You said you have a guy in Hassan Reddick. He's not there right now, but hey, Takk McKinley, Hassan Reddick replacement. Hey now, we got our guy, huh? Former first rounder. It's an even swap, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't be panicking about Reddick yet.
Okay.
Obviously the joke is, we got our Hassan Reddick replacement, but it's a move in the sense of when it comes down to McKinley, it's a depth move. Sure. It's something where you're going to get him in the building. You're going to see how he looks during training camp and basically the runway up to the regular season. And you make the determination. If you think he can help the team, you keep him. If not, it's a low risk move.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Woody.
Do you think he's making the team?
Oh, no, I was saying just in general, you get the guy in the building now. So now you can have basically the practices where he's working, the preseason games, and now you're seeing how he stacks up against other guys, because there are some interesting players along the defensive line that are competing for spots, whether it be a Leonard Taylor, whether it be an Eric Watts. You have other guys that are competing too. So now it comes down to, all right, who looks the best out of all these different players? And the preseason and training camp and joint practices, everything combined together, you now will have, and from the Jets' perspective, the best way to determine how you craft the best defensive line depth for this roster.
I'm going to be honest, this is the most weird-ass analogy I've ever made or comparison before, but Woody or Brandon, are either of you MMA UFC guys?
I would say, yeah. I would say,
Okay. So a show I used to love to watch with my dad was The Ultimate Fighter. And on some of these seasons, you've had the mix of where you have the newbies and then the veterans that are getting their second chance of coming into the house, and you pick up all these fighters and things of that nature. And I remember when they split them up before, and on one group, you had these guys that, again, they had their chance in the UFC and they blew it for whatever reason. Now they're getting a second chance. They have all this fresh meat that's young. They've never been there before. And that's how I kind of look at the defensive line room with like adding a guy like Takk McKinley. This is a guy that's been to the quote unquote mountaintop before as his first round pick. Everyone thought so highly of him and he's fallen off considerably. I don't think he's played in a game in 3 years. So he hasn't played in actual games since 2021. He's been on some practice squads the last handful of years. So he's a guy that's hungry as all hell, I would imagine. He sees this Jets opportunity, the talent, the rotation, and all that. They got some of these young bucks. You mentioned them. Watts. You got Leonard Taylor III. You have some of the guys that are like perhaps dropping, depending on your perspective. I love Michael Clemens, so I'm not on that train, but I've seen other Jets people out in the universe that he could be falling off. So I just love more competition. I think competition breeds success. It's great to have those different flavors. That's why I bring up, The Ultimate Fighter, which apparently there's a new season going on. I heard about that, but I have not seen any of the latest deets on the latest season with, I think it's Shevchenko is on that one. But regardless, that's the core that I think is really cool. That, again, adding a guy like this can only help. If he ends up just being a camp body on a 90-man roster, so be it. But I think it's only good news. Go ahead, Woody.
That wasn't even your top 5 strangest metaphor. That was a good one.
Nice, excellent. Okay, great. Yeah.
So nice one. We kind of talked about the bottom rungs of that ladder. Let's bring it to the top. Now I know we've talked about Hassan Reddick. Everybody's talked about Hassan Reddick, right? I've read your article on Hassan. We done with Hassan right now. Jermaine looks solid, and then there comes that other name. I just want to get your thoughts on this opinion. I usually say, Will McDonald, will he have some time? E-I-E-I-O. I don't know. All right. How do you feel about his potential this upcoming season?
I think with McDonald, it's similar, but not the same as Jermaine Johnson heading into year 2, because Jermaine Johnson, that rookie year, he wasn't on the field too much. It was kind of, in a sense, a red shirt, but he was playing some snaps and he was at the bottom of that rotation. And then the following year, he puts in all the work in the offseason and he takes that step forward to where he becomes a productive edge rusher. McDonald is in that similar boat, but he's not the same exact player. He has a bit more pure pass rushing upside as compared to Johnson, but he's not as good of a run defender. So I think when you look at it, with the defensive line you should have, whether it be with Reddick on the field or Jermaine Johnson or Quentin Williams, or if Michael Clemens takes that next step, or Javon Kinlaw, you're going to have guys that can all get after the pass rush, after the quarterback, the passer. And I think McDonald, by virtue of being on the field with some of these other guys, is going to have opportunities to take advantage of one-on-one matchups or matchups where the offense has to dictate attention towards a different player. It just comes down to, does the work that he put in over the offseason pay off? And can he produce at a substantial level? Can he produce at a level that is worthy of that first-round pick the Jets made him to be? I'm not sure yet. I think he's in a very, very good position to do so. I think you could say he's in the pseudo Bryce Huff role, where maybe he's just that third down assassin where he comes in and the Jets just let him get after the quarterback, and that's how he starts his development track even further. But it's going to be interesting because with different positions in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, you can see things, whether it be a wide receiver, whether it be a quarterback, a cornerback. When it comes to defensive line, you're not going to actually know until those pads are on in late July. You can't tell, oh, this edge rusher is actually looking great, because you're in shorts and t-shirts. That's not what a real game looks like. It's not what a real practice looks like at full speed. So I have my optimism, but we're not going to know for sure for at least another month.
I will just say, though, if Will McDonald's living up to that hype, I'll be the one that's jumping over cars. That's for damn sure. On old Willie, old Will McDonald, jumping in on the action. Again, we're speaking with Brandyn Pokrass here on the program from JetsXFactor.com on a I thank God Central Valley put this in here so I can't possibly mess it up. I can keep referencing it immediately. Third Party Thursday with a couple of T's in there. And let's go to another contract situation real quick. So we won't talk about Hassan Reddick. That was Wudi's rule. The First World Fight Club, no talk of Reddick. Okay. I will not break that rule. But what about DJ Reed? So he spoke to the media this week at the mandatory minicamp, and now we're going to have this 40 to 41 day gap, depending on when you started counting, until we get to training camp. And DJ Reed said that he and his agent representation have not spoken to the Jets about a contract extension. And basically at this point, he expects to reach the open market, and that would be next year. Number one, are you surprised by that fun fact that DJ Reed shared? And number two, how do you see it playing out?
I'm not surprised, because if you look at how the Jets are handling a lot of contract stuff, I think it kind of makes sense because of the guys that are coming up for the extensions. The Jets have to be even smarter when it comes to their cap than they've been in previous years, not just because of the guys that are going to be up for those extensions, but the fact that they've handicapped themselves a little bit with some moves they missed on in years past. When it comes to what they should do with him, the cornerback position is very interesting, because a name that has stood out a ton in OTAs and minicamp has been Quantez Stiggers, the former CFL Rookie of the Year. He's looked very, very good in camp. He's made plays. He's had interceptions. He's had lockdown coverage. If you're getting that type of production right away, and the Jets see enough, and we're moving very, very far ahead in this scenario, but if the Jets see enough where they're like, hey, this guy could be our starting cornerback opposite Sauce Gardner in 2025, and we don't need to pay him as much as we would need Reed, who, as amazing as a player as he is approaching 30. He did show a few signs, not many, but a few signs of slowing down at points last season. The Jets could look at their roster, who they need to pay, what positions they need to prioritize, and decide not to extend Reed. And I think the other part of it, outside of whether it be Stiggers or Eccles or another guy stepping up at that position, is do they value Reed or Carter more in terms of an extension? And that's a team preference, because personally, I would lean towards MC2 just because of how important the slot is in the modern NFL. The way offenses attack defenses, a lot of it comes through the slot. You have players that look at a Justin Jefferson, a CeeDee Lamb. A lot of their damage is not coming from the outside. It's coming from the slot. So you need a lockdown player in that area of the field. Carter's young. He's been one of the better slot corners, if not the best slot corner in the game. And I think that's a contract the Jets need to get ahead of. So that's where I would lean. But we don't know how the Jets are thinking. We don't know if they value DJ Reed more than MC2. We don't know if they think that Eccles or Stiggers can step in for Michael Carter II if they let him walk. And then you obviously have the contract situations of, hey, what does Sauce's contract look like? And how does that dictate things? What does Breece's contract look like? Because you don't have that fifth-year option with him. What does Garrett Wilson's contract look like? And so on and so forth. So it's a very interesting situation.
Yeah, I would just say you provided a lot of compelling statistics and analytics to back up the things that you said. But I would just go to a point blank one when you're like, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II. Where are we going to go? And in the simplest form, I go to the money, the stone cold cash. And DJ Reed, who signed for a 3-year deal for $33 million initially, right? Some people are like, whoa, that seems a lot for this no-name DJ Reed guy. And it ends up being this incredible value immediately. He, after the seasons he's had, the 2 years in the books with the Jets, he's like, I want to pay raise. I want to pay upgrade from $11 million per year. And he's well within his rights from the numbers and will be, as Connor Hughes said, one of the top free agents, regardless of position on the open market, if he is to reach it next year. So he could be pushing top 10 numbers. And again, the highest paid corner right now in football is Jair Alexander, hovering in that 20-21 million range. So DJ would probably want to get top 10, which would probably be, 15, 16, 17 million per year is a number he could be healthily looking at. The interesting thing with Michael Carter II, you mentioned the positional differences. A slot corner, actually, DJ Reed's contract would be his contract that he's in right now of 3 years, $33 million would be a top of the market deal for a slot corner. So the Jets could say, well, DJ, we appreciated your 3 years, $33 million. Michael, same check, copy and paste, throw right on over to Michael Carter II. You mentioned it, younger guy, all this stuff, and he will be, quote unquote, top of his market for slot corner as an individual instead of boundary corner money. And all of a sudden, it works out for the Jets. You, in theory, try to replace DJ Reed, who's been spectacular. And Rick Kent said this in there on the YouTube channel. DJ showed a lot of class during both the presser and really his entire time here, that he, and especially now, that he's not choosing to hold out or say, hey, where's my money? It's like, hey, I'll play it out. I will bet on myself. And if the Jets want to let the door hit me on the ass on the way out, so be it. Someone's going to pay me the bag. And he's always had this swagger confidence we've seen since his first introductory press conference in the middle of COVID when we saw it. So I think that's the reason for me, point blank money. On top of everything else, age, analytics, numbers, my Jex X Factor brother from another mother, dropping all these kinds of nuggets and bits of info. Those are all compelling, but the stone cold money could be the simplest form, especially as the Jets are getting better and they got to pay more guys. You got to start seeing where we're going to save some of those shekels. Go ahead, Woody.
Yep. It's all about the money. The bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. That was actually, where I was going to go. Is this DJ Reed's last year as a Jet? And you guys pretty much outlined a lot of reasons why it might be. I do agree with Rick's sentiment and, what Boy Green echoed, that, it's been service well spent. So I'm definitely, thankful and looking forward to. I mean, it's not over yet, so no reason for the eulogy. But one thing you did bring up when we were talking about, why this in fact might be DJ Reed's last year, are some of the upcoming contracts. Brees.
Hey, Wudi, real quick, are you about to go away from DJ Reed on your question?
I was. Oh,
Okay.
You got a DJ Reed?
Real quick, I just want to follow up if we're going in a different direction here. I just want to address the idiots in our audience. And that's kind of rude to bluntly just kind of throw that word.
How dare you, Boy Green?
But, because Wudi, you're normally the one who's disrespecting people. But,
True.
I've heard a lot of people say about the DJ Reed thing, oh, man, trade him now for a 2025 quadruple made-up pick. Like, we need to get it now so we don't lose him. And I'm like, what the fly? We're trying to win a friggin' Super Bowl right now. DJ Reed right now is a really good player. So while sure, in theory, could all this happen the way it is with all the contracts Woody's about to point out to, and I don't want to cut into any of that just solely on DJ Reed. I just want to tell those people and say, oh, man, we could trade him right now for a third-round pick. And I don't want a friggin' third-round pick. If you traded DJ Reed right now in June, you're making your team weaker. I want our team stronger. So let's have DJ Reed hopefully help the Jets win a championship. And then, okay, the pill is a little easier to swallow when you slap DJ Reed on the ass on his way out. Thanks for the title, buddy. Go get your bag from somebody else. So I just wanted to establish that because Wudi even mentioned it a little bit in his answer. It's not over, but a lot of fans have suggested it openly on our variety of portals that, hey, maybe we should flip him and try to get some for him. I just think any of that talk's crazy. And I feel like some of that is overreaction to Stiggers, who, by the way, has looked awesome. Oh, Stiggers can step in there right now. For God's sake, let's let a brother go through the proper TLC here for everybody from the cornerback position before we're throwing people out there in the wilderness. So I just want to make sure he got that in there. But go ahead, Wudi. Let's dive into some future contracts. Let's get the scuba gear on and start swimming around over there.
Hey, all those people are just, they playing too much Madden. The expiring contract, let's not lose it for nothing type nonsense. I mean, we're trying to win right now, like you said. And preferably, if we could, win in the future. So
both. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So looking at the future, Brandyn, you had a tremendous point about Brees. I keep because Brees is so elite to me. I feel like we have 4 first-round draft picks, but no, it actually is 3, and then the one very high second-round pick in Brees. So his contract is different from his classmates, and then the class before, right? We talked about MC2, AVT. Are there any names? I'll keep it to those 6: Elijah Vera Tucker, Michael Carter II. And then the top 4 of the 2022 draft class: Sauce, Garrett, why am I forgetting? Jermaine and Brees.
Yeah.
Are there any names where at this point, early bird getting that worm, is there anybody who you think will not get an extension from the new? Because it doesn't seem like all 6. That doesn't seem possible, especially with Hassan huffing and puffing and blowing the door down for the money that he deserves with his stellar play. Who out of the 6 do you foresee being the odd man out? We won't hold you to it, just a guess this early on.
Well, I think if you go year to year, right, starting with the Michael Carter, Elijah Vera Tucker class, I think Vera Tucker is the easy answer, and it has nothing to really do with his play on the field. You have to see that full season from him again. Because whether you think the injuries are a fluke or not, whether you thought they were just freak accidents, it has been 2 years in a row that he's missed large chunks of seasons. So I think before the Jets can be comfortable extending him, and trust me, I think if he was on the field, they would definitely want to extend him. But you need to see that full season out of him. You need to see how he looks at one position full time. And if he does that, I think the Jets will prioritize extending him because it's not easy to find good offensive line play all the time in this league. I think the cornerback is very interesting. I think the Jets should prioritize Michael Carter II. What does that look like compared to DJ Reed? What do they value? We're not going to know that for a very long time. And then we get to the 2022 draft class. Sauce is going to be a priority. He's going to probably be the highest paid corner in the league when he gets his new deal. Very well deserving, 1,000%. Garrett Wilson, The Wilson thing is very interesting because the Jets should prioritize it, but that's all his money, and I think those discussions are going to be predicated on some of the Jets' future. And this is obviously down the line, but I think Garrett is going to care about what life is like post Aaron Rodgers. I think he might care about, hey, what's the quarterback situation look like beyond the maybe 3, but likely 2 years that Aaron Rodgers is playing for the New York Jets. Because this is a guy, look at what happened last year. He wasn't thrilled with Zach Wilson and the revolving door at quarterback. He's someone that is very humble, but is very passionate about winning and very passionate about winning football games at the highest level. So I think the Jets will get it done with him. It's just a matter of what does it look like after what everyone thinks is going to be a breakout year, but what do those numbers actually look like? Where does he fall in the pantheon of NFL wide receivers and the tiers that they're usually broken up into? Breece Hall, I think that one gets done simply for the fact that if he takes that next step, and let's say, for example, he has 1,700, 1,800 total yards, right?
Hallelujah.
That's now entering a zone where he's not just a running back. He's now a really big asset to you as a receiver. And those contracts for running backs don't break the bank. So I think it's feasible to get a Breece Hall contract done and still work on Sauce and still work on Garrett and still be able to keep the majority of that core together. Obviously, it depends on other factors like Hassan Reddick. Do the Jets let him walk after this year? Is it a Band-Aid deal where it's a 1 year tacked on and then he's a free agent afterwards? It remains to be seen. That's a situation that is going to play itself out this summer instead of next summer. And I think outside of Elijah Vera Tucker, the most interesting one is Jermaine Johnson. Because Jermaine, as good as he is, has not entered that upper echelon level of edge rusher yet. He is what I would call a very solid player, a very good player, very valuable player to the New York Jets defense, but he's not in that upper echelon yet. If he takes that next step in 2024, let's say he jumps up to double-digit sacks, and who knows, lots of things can go up, down, left, right in terms of the NFL. It stands for not for long for a reason. But if he is able to take that step, now you have an interesting spot because you would have to be paying potentially top edge rusher money, top wide receiver money, and top cornerback money. In a salary cap league, that's not always possible. So
and top running back money potentially too if you do the Breece Hall
right,
thing.
Exactly. That's not possible. It's just if it was baseball, yeah, everybody gets their money, everyone's singing kumbaya, but in a salary cap league, the way the NFL operates, you can't always sign everyone. So I think Jermaine, unless he takes that leap forward, the Jets might look at it as, hey, we have a very solid, a very young player at this position, but we simply can't extend him by virtue of all these other guys at positions that are performing better. Those guys have to get done before Johnson. But it's a very, very, very interesting situation that, let's face it, the Jets haven't been in this situation in years. When's the last time that multiple Jets players are on the verge of being extended and they're worthy of these extensions? It hasn't happened in a very long time. And it's something that, hey, 2024 season, all in, these contract discussions are not going to be a talking point this season. But the minute this season ends, those conversations are going to be very, very, very interesting to follow.
Yeah, and Brandon, you said it there that like you don't believe it'll be possible to pay all these guys. And as I wear this Kevin Garnett jersey, it makes me want to scream, anything's possible. So I feel like I want to do that. By the way, real quick, if you could just repeat that, how many yards did you say that potentially Breece Hall could have in total in rushing, receiving, and everything else? How many was that again?
I was just giving a hypothetical.
No, I know, but I just wanted to hear it again. Yeah, what was
you wanted to hear it again? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, in that hypothetical, like, you never know. Like he had the way I look at it, and this is getting into the prediction territory, right? Obviously, he had over 1,500 with bad quarterback play and not an offensive line.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's that 1,800, 1,700 number that I think he could approach very easily.
I need like a Ric Flair thing there too. The woo, oh baby. Okay, I'm not saying it's crazy either because I think you're right. He had in the AFC, the entire conference, half of the leagues in the half of the teams in the league, 16. There was Tyreek Hill and then Breece Hall for all-purpose yards. Again, Tyreek Hill, Breece Hall. That was the list. Tyreek Hill was in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. Breece Hall wasn't on the ballot. So, again, to see what question. The increase could be.
Do you know how many were in the NFC? Because I know, like, you bring up that
Christian McCaffrey. So I believe it's third overall is what someone told me recently. I knew
that might sound better than second in the conference.
That would, I guess. But, like, I just heard it because that's how it kept getting repeated to me. It got beat into my head. Eric Allen was doing an interview, the Jets senior reporter for NewYorkJets.com and the team. He was doing an interview, just kept repeating that stat. He just said it. And then just went, kept getting ingrained in my mind. And then someone more recently came on the show that's like an overall NFL person and said, oh, yeah, third. And I was like, oh, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and boop, Breece Hall. That was the list. Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that – not very interesting. It's very evident that he could have an even bigger year with a better offense. I think the question just comes down to, like, someone isn't going to hit their level of production, right? Unless every single offensive player clicks on all cylinders. Aaron Rodgers throws for over 4,500. Like, that's the type of season you're looking at because I think Garrett Wilson is the most quote-unquote likely breakout in the sense of Rodgers going to target him probably 120, 130 times if they're both on the field together. And
probably
even if
more than that, I mean, honestly, because like Garrett Wilson, who I can't remember what show we did this week. Oh, yeah, it was this morning. Jesus, I have like the attention span of a goldfish. This morning, Nick Faria, he joined me on the show, and he said he believes that Garrett Wilson is going to get the target record broken that currently is held by Michael Thomas, who had like 185 targets like in 2019. And I'm like, that's cool that Nick said that. I'm like, I wonder what Garrett's actually has been the last 2 years. And it was like 160 something and 140 something. So that's what it was with shitty quarterback play. I can only, excuse my Guatemalan, I can only imagine Aaron Rodgers, that number's got to be crazy. So yeah, he should have in theory plenty of ops, which to your point, if someone's going to break out and seize the room of being the elite of the elite of the elite, you'd think it's Garrett who would be directly associated with Rodgers. Yeah.
Right. He also has the best supporting cast though, like right now. Like last year, the year before.
Who?
I don't know if he
who has the best supporting cast. What are you talking about?
Garrett. I mean, Mike Williams,
yes.
I think all these guys. So I think there are more mouths to feed now than ever before. I mean, when Flacco was out there, Mike White was out there, it was Garrett Wilson or nothing, and they fed Garrett.
I would still say, though, if you really evaluate the target room here, that Mike Williams is coming back from an ACL, so we don't know when he's going to be ready. He says by week 1, we'll see when he's actually ready because they slow played Breece Hall last year. Malachi Corley is a raw route runner. Again, those are the words Salah said. So, like, when you really start evaluating all the options, it sounds like number 1 in target is going to be Garrett. And if you went to number 2, it might be Breece, who had 76 catches last year. So, yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, basically the thought process is I think Garrett's the quote-unquote lock if everything goes right for the breakout because whether it's Rodgers or Tyrod, he's just going to be open and the quarterback's going to consistently target him. Like, that's absolutely. But then you look at it. You have Mike Williams. What does his statistics look like? You have Tyler Conklin. You have Corley. Sure. You have Xavier Gibson, who's been working in a lot with the offense. And you have Breece. I would still say Breece is going to be heavily involved and that he's going to be used even more in the right ways as a receiver. So I do think he still has a great chance to hit that 1,600, 1,700 mark. But it goes to the point that you guys were saying, there are a lot of mouths to feed. There isn't this like vacuum of, we got to just simply target Breece and Garrett on every single play. It's a hallmark of a good offense is having multiple guys that you can target, you can utilize in different spots. And the thought process that I usually arrive at with it, and what I have arrived at with it, is everyone isn't going to have 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Someone isn't going to be this superstar level. But I do think that Brees and Garrett are the two most likely ones.
Well, Brandyn, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Boy Green Meets Wudi. So consider your cherry popped, Pokrass, here on the program. That's for sure. So appreciate you gracing us with your presence, pal. And hopefully the first of many times. I hope you enjoy the summer before we gather all back around for training camp.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on once again.
All right, Wudi, any final words?
Of course. Thank you for being the voice of reason too many times. You know, I have to bring down this man, Boy Green, from the fantasy world that he lives in. So I appreciate you coming in here with some facts, with some data, with some realism, real talk. Definitely appreciate it. Can you actually just say that part one more time about how everyone's not going to have 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns? Can you just let him know that? Can you just say it one more time for the people in the back?
I said it once. I'll let it sit. I'll let it sit.
There you go. Yeah. He refuses. So Wudi, shove it, pal. He said it once. If you didn't hear me, rewind the tape. You could do that on youtube.com/boygreen25. I like it from Brandyn. Brandyn, thank you so much, pal, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for Boy Green Meets Wudi next Tuesday, and we'll see you for Boy Green Daily tomorrow morning at 7:30. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.